May we be seated, please. Honorable Chairman of this great conference, incidentally, the Honorable Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Honorable Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sununu, the Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees and Internally Displaced Persons, Honorable Aliyu Tijani Ahmed, Executive Secretary, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, Architect Sonu St. Echonu, Director General, National Institute for Democratic and National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. Let me also recognize the Chairman and CEO, Nigeria in Diaspora, Honorable Abike Dabiri, the Chief of Mission to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, International Organization for Migration, the CEO, National Library, former Executive Secretary, TED Fund, Chief Host and Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Olufemi Peters, our keynote speaker, Reverend Father Dr. Emeka Chiedu Obiezu, Principal Officers of NOUN, two former Vice Chancellors of the National Open University of Nigeria, our lead paper presenters, our host and convener of the conference, the Director, Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies, members of the academic community, participants, both live and virtual, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is with a great sense of honor that I welcome you all to this 2025 Annual International Conference organized by the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies of the National Open University of Nigeria with the theme, Migration and Sustainable Development, Problems and Prospects. Without any further ado, I would like to invite the Center Director of the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Gloria Eneto, for her address of welcome.
Dear distinguished dignitaries, Honorable Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sununu, Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Honorable Aliyu Tijani Ahmed, Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugee, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Architect Sonny Echeno, guest of honor and the Executive Secretary, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund, Professor Suleiman Abubakar in absentia, Director General, the National Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies, former Minister of National Planning of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa, Chairman, CEO, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Paula Pache, the guest of honor, Chief of Mission to Nigeria of the International Organization of Migration, IOM, Professor Elias Bogoro, special guest and former Executive Secretary, TED Fund, Chief host of this foremost event, the Vice Chancellor of our great institution, the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Olufemi Peters, all principal staff here present, the keynote speaker for today, Dr. Chris Emeka, the National Coordinator of the Civil Society of Organization of Nigeria, CSO Netman, all former Vice Chancellors present, the deans and directors, all professors and heads of departments, distinguished academia, esteemed lead paper presenters, all committee chairs of this conference, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly observed. I welcome you all in a very special way. I'm delighted, extremely, to welcome you most cordially to the official opening ceremony of the first international conference of the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies, CEMGS, of the National Open University of Nigeria. The Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies was established by Tech Fund in 2020 with a seed fund under the leadership of the immediate past Executive Secretary of Tech Fund, Professor Suleiman Elas Bogoro, and the immediate past Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Abdallah Adamu. The then Vice Chancellor selected the pioneer director of the center, Professor Hakeem Ibikole Tijani, to flag the affairs of the center, and he gave a solid foundation and passed the baton to Professor Gloria Neto, who is the current director of the center, under the visionary leadership of our current Vice Chancellor, Professor Olufemi Peters. The vision of this Center of Excellence is to serve as a bridge between humanity and the future, and the mission is to provide sustainable leverage for interdisciplinary research in migration and global studies. The mandate of the center serves as a fulcrum of research on migration, both internal and external. It is a hinge of evidence-based research about pressing and emerging migration challenges in Nigeria, Africa, and indeed the entire world. The center has been growing steadily since its inception and meeting up steadfastly with accomplishing its vision, mission, and mandates. Being a fulcrum of research in migration, the center has to carry out cutting-edge research. Therefore, it is necessary for the center to float postgraduate programs in migration and global studies, which can be further achieved through financial support and updates of its mandates. With more of such financial support, the center can get to a greater height, being a center of excellence in a tertiary institution. The good news is that the center is beginning to gain international recognition. It has recently attracted an international institution, Munich Forum Dialogue, MFD, in collaboration with the University of Krems, Austria, signed a memorandum of understanding, MOU, with the university to collaborate with the center in the training of individuals in migration agencies on circular and return migration. The managing director of FMD will be speaking to us during this conference. Migration, we all know, cuts across all disciplines in academia, irrespective of your course of study. And interest is always the key in achieving a fruitful migration issue delivery. Permit me to say that migration linked since the beginning of education. Migration brought about formal education to most parts of the world and still drives education to the present. The dynamics of migration reveal that employment opportunity is the most common reason why people migrate, and some of them do that irregularly, and some of them do it regularly. So the purpose of this conference is that this conference with the theme Migration and Sustainable Development, Problems and Prospects, is timely and focused, and it's a 2-day conference, and the purpose is to see that we
recording in progress.
Deliver the message of regular migration as the only choice that we should embrace and desist from irregular migration. And I'm sure the keynote address, the keynote presentation today, Dr. Emeka Obiezu, is very knowledgeable in the field of migration, both locally and internationally, and I'm confident that he will enlighten us more on today's theme. There is nothing more to say than to encourage each one of us to make the best use of this opportunity of our gathering together for the next 48 hours to learn new things about proper migration and unlearn the things that may give us challenges if we migrate irregularly. Finally, I wish to thank my Vice Chancellor, Professor Olufemi Peters, in a very special way for his fatherly support to the center, which has brought the success of today's event. Once again, I welcome all the guests of honor, special guests, and the management staff of the university for honoring our invitation. In a very special way, I thank the entire staff of the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Study for their hard work while planning for this event, especially the local organizing committee headed by Professor Akim Akinwale. God bless you all. All NOUN colleagues, academic and non-teaching, that we have to call on to serve in one committee or the other, we are grateful for your immense support. I wish everyone a fruitful deliberation, and it is hoped that we will come up with creative and good decisions, as well as recommendations to move migration issues to a better level globally. You may take off some time at the end of the conference to savor the beautiful city of Abuja. You are all warmly welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, from the welcome address, I'm sure we now know that this is more than an event. It is a conference that would add to the existing body of knowledge and current debates on migration and development in Nigeria. It is an event that will explore current migration trends and dynamics and foster safe, orderly, and regular migration. With this, ladies and gentlemen, join me as we warmly welcome the chief host, the Vice Chancellor of National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Olufemi A. Peters. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, the Honorable Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sununu, who is a special friend to the National Open University of Nigeria when he was Minister of State for Education and also still Minister of State. We thank you, sir, for honoring this conference. The Honorable Federal Commissioner for the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons, we thank you for coming to this important discourse. And my sister, the Chairman, CEO of Nigerian in Diaspora Commission, Honorable Abike Dabile-Lewa. You're welcome, ma. The Executive Secretary, the people who fund my university, and indeed who provided the funds for this center, Architect Sonny Echono. You're welcome. And I want to add immediately, the then Executive Secretary, a long-term friend of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Elias Kogoro. You are also very welcome. The guest speaker of today, Dr. Chris Emeka Obiezu. You are welcome to our university. Distinguished members who are here, my former colleagues in the DC office, all the distinguished guests that you have here, ladies and gentlemen, it is really an honor and a privilege to welcome you to today's meeting. I made a statement to Honorable Abike Dabirewa today, that today, by this time today, next year, I will be leaving office as Vice Chancellor. So today is a very important day and marking the beginning of my 5th year in office. On behalf of the Senate, management, and staff of the National Open University of Nigeria, I sincerely extend my greetings to all our distinguished attendees, both those who have traveled from near and far, and those who will be joining us virtually. Your presence here today underscores the importance of one of the most pressing global issues of our time, which is migration and immigration. And it is indeed a very great opportunity for us to explore innovative solutions that can guide us towards dealing with this emerging phenomenon. Migration has shaped human societies for millennia. It has come to be very deeply a complex issue, often driven by factors such as conflict, economic disparities, environmental changes, and political instability. There are challenges associated with it. Whereas it can enhance economic growth, cultural exchange, and innovation, it also presents itself with significant problems that, even if it was ignored before, the existential nature of it now stares us in the face. We are witnessing increasing tensions around the globe, where the receiving countries are grappling with the stress and strain that migrant populations do place on their infrastructure, their social services, and their labor markets. Yet, forces that initiate and encourage migration and movement of people from one place to another continue to be growing occurrences. In addition, of recent, and especially in Europe, the issue of irregular migration, unknown before in our lexicon, has led to the humanitarian crisis, including happenstances of tragic loss of lives at sea and in deserts, as well as the exploitation of migrants by those who traffic in them. But there are prospects as well that despite these numerous challenges, migration also holds great potential for fostering sustainable development. If managed effectively, migration can be a powerful driver of economic and social transformation. The United States of America is a shining example of migrants' assimilation into the political and social economic fabric of the society. Of course, it is an irony now that the same country is now becoming a shining example of least tolerance to migration. Migrants bring with them not just labor, but they also bring skills, knowledge, and innovation. They contribute to the economics of host countries, and they often send remittances back to their home countries. We knew what happened last December in Nigeria, what we popularly now call Desert December. And the statistics show that over ₦1 trillion was moved into this country by migrants, our own migrants who have sojourned outside this country. Nevertheless, there is growing recognition that the key to addressing migration challenges lies in adopting a holistic and human-centered approach. What this means is that we must create a system that provides safe, legal pathways for migration, protecting the rights of migrants, and addressing the root causes that compel people to leave their home in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my opinion that this conference will provide us with a unique platform to engage in meaningful discussions, share innovative research, and explore practical solutions to the challenges of migration and sustainable development. It is an opportunity for academics, policymakers, development practitioners, migration experts to deliberate on best practices, exchange ideas, and propose forward-looking strategies that will shape policies and actions at both national and global levels. Let us strive for a world in which migration is not merely a survival strategy, but a source of opportunity, equity, and shared prosperity. Permit me to appreciate the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, who released the award of the seed fund that was used to set up the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies at my university, under the able administration of Professor Abdallah Uba Adamu, who is here present with us. I also want to acknowledge that the center had a fantastic pioneering director in the person of Professor Hakeem Tijani. We thank the two of you for the pioneering work you've done to set up this center. It is evident that today, this center has grown as among other centers of excellence in this country. And as part of its pioneering mandate, it is perhaps the only center in the country that runs monthly seminars, webinars on contemporary migrant issues with speakers drawn from all across the globe. Therefore, with the listening ear of the Executive Secretary of TEDFund, I want to make a special appeal and request to TEDFund to continue to provide additional funds to water the seed, the germinating seed, which has enabled the center to professionally and intellectually fulfill the training and human capacity programs of our dear citizens in this country. And as the director said, the center is now well known even within the international arena. And we are currently undergoing a research study between the African diaspora courses and the European diaspora courses with an Austrian research institute. Yes, sir, we shall be grateful if this is granted. In conclusion, problems associated with migration are indeed very complex. They are also challenging, but the prospects are equally very promising. It is up to government, institutions like ours, communities, public institutions charged with migrations, and individuals to create policies that promote potential of migration as a tool for sustainable development. I want to welcome you again to National Open University of Nigeria, the only distance learning public institution we have in this country, with over 140,000 students spread across the length and breadth of Nigeria. And we are very grateful to the federal government for the continued support of our university. I want to thank each and every one of us for your attention, and I look forward to the fruitful discussions and collaborations that will take place over the course of this conference. In particular, I want to thank once again the chair of this occasion, who had to come from Lagos for this meeting. I haven't had to go to Lagos for other business and had flight delayed, but because of his love for the title, for the theme of this conference, decided to get another ticket that he could come. Mr. Chairman, sir, Honorable sir, Minister, thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, who within a short period of time after assuming office has revolutionized teaching pedagogies and deploying the needed technology in making the National Open University of Nigeria not only the biggest in Nigeria, but the biggest in the entirety of West Africa in terms of enrollment. We're proud of that. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, I would like to invite the Honorable Chairman of this occasion and the Honorable Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Honorable Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sununu, for his opening remark and subsequently declare this function open.
The Vice Chancellor of National Open University of Nigeria and the host of this occasion, the Honorable Federal Commissioner for National Commission of Refugee, Migrant, and Internally Displaced Persons, Honorable Ali Tijani Ahmed, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Nigerian Diaspora Commission, my senior colleague in the House of Representatives, whom we are so much proud of. They say once a member, always a member, and once a National Assembly, always National Assembly member. I believe we are all serving a sabbatical period because that is a place where we are always proud of serving as a voice of your people, representing them and appropriating what can be done for them. Thank you, Ma. The Executive Secretary of TED Fund, Aksone Echono, you have been under pressure. You've called me severally. Thank you very much for always reminding me around. Other guests, because of the time factor, but I must recognize my very close mentor, who I'm so much respect, Professor Bagoro, for being always there when it comes to issue of education. I have met him severally in different fora. It goes to shows that age is a mere figure, but it provided you the opportunity to share so much with different people. Let me profusely apologize for coming late. As the Vice Chancellor mentioned, I was in Lagos, and I tried to make it earlier by booking a flight of 8 o'clock, but unfortunately it was shifted to 11. So I have to struggle to get another ticket just to make it. So please accept my apology. It wasn't intentional, and it's also not my habit to be late whenever I'm invited. Well, the conference day and the team, sustainable migration and sustainable development problems and prospects, is apt, and it can never come at a better time than now, when the federal government of Nigeria, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is doing all its best to ensure that everyone has the dividends of democracy. And to this, migrants are not excluded. And definitely for us as a Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, and my sister also, who's also here with us, I just want to say this is our day. And that's why we have to do all we can to ensure that we are here. In fact, it's a wake-up call because we're supposed to have been organizers of this program. So we just want to use this opportunity to extend our appreciation to the Vice Chancellor and the TED Fund for supporting all the activities. Migration, whether internal, irregular, or even external, have both their positive and negative consequences. As a nation, we must be able to swim the tide so that we can benefit maximally from the positive impact of migration while mitigating the negative impact of it. There are a lot of challenges which we must address in this conference. We do know that migration is a source of a cultural shock in any country, because it's either people are admitted into your own or they are moving to another sphere, and therefore there will be a lot of cultural challenges which may tend to either be positive or negative. Not only that, migration can also serve as an employment activity, and it has a lot of reward. We've heard so much what are the remittance from the diaspora colleagues that are there, and we have a lot to share from their activities. I remember through the office of the, so many outreaches have been organized by our colleagues, medical doctors outside Nigeria, just in order to pay back to the country they belong to, and therefore that is a very commendable. We must also be able as a nation to address the housing challenges. Just some few days ago, we were in Chad, Cameroon Republic, to return some of our refugees from Chad Republic to Nigeria. And this followed their voluntary request to Mr. President and the Executive Governor of Borno State, expressing their desire to be back to the country. And as a government responsible one for that matter, all preparation were made to address challenges that they may experience on ground, and also to ensure them the security of their environment is also habitable, and therefore we took that decision. Family separation is one of the negative consequences of migration. Now, for us as a country, the biggest challenge, while a lot is being done, and I must commend the Federal Ministry of Education and the Nigerian University Commission and TEDFORD for introducing partnership between our campuses in Nigeria and other campuses outside the country to do the transnational education so as to reduce the migration of our well-skilled, experienced academicians out of the country. We have seen a lot of consequences, especially the brain drain. The federal government is doing much to address brain drains, especially that affect the healthcare services. I recall in the last few weeks, a document was produced trying to address the issue of brain drain. We must also be able to promote cultural understanding if we want to mitigate the negative consequences of migration. And I think that is the philosophy why our forefathers, including those of the academicians who are here, try to say that at a certain age of our basic education, language, after the language of motherhood, English is introduced, then followed by the language of our neighbors. And that's why I think a lot of us want to learn French, either in primary school, at the level of basic education. This is to assist the culture, to promote cultural understanding. Well, let me say that as a ministry, we'll continue to support all effort that will ensure that migrants and internally displaced persons are also given their due consideration. And we have already deployed programs and agenda that will ensure that we provide durable solutions in interactions with migrants and internally displaced persons. But we must also say that other aspects of government addressing the issue of migration is holistic one in terms of not limited to one ministry, and also in terms of country must be intercontinental relationship. Because, and lastly, we must ensure that also that the effort of the Ministry of Interior of sustaining the activities of border control is also good enough to ensure that everybody have the right to move freely, but through the normal channels. Once more, I want to congratulate the Vice Chancellor. You are 5 years in office. You are moving towards the end now. Has been a successful story. I must say that as of today, there is no university, not only in Nigeria, but in Africa, that is expanding so much, and that is also in love with our legislature. Virtually every other month, campuses are being opened all over. And the reason is that your flexibility of learning has even afforded the migrants opportunity to learn while on transit. On this note, I want to congratulate you all. So for this, it is also your own conference today while you support the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction. Thank you. Sorry, I'm reminded. You know, in the house, we only declare to adjourn. so, so I think it's my humble pleasure to use this opportunity and rare privilege to declare this conference open.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Honorable Minister of States for Humanitarian Affairs, Poverty Reduction, Honorable Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sunun. And this brings us to goodwill messages. To get us going on this slot, it's my privilege to invite the Executive Secretary, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, Architect Sonu St. Chono, for a goodwill message.
The Honorable Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Chair of this occasion, also my minister, the Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, my dear sister, Honorable Abike Adibiri, with whom we are cooperating in other spheres. I'm glad to be here today. I want to especially acknowledge my predecessor for his visionary work in the establishment of this particular Center of Excellence. This is one of 27 centers of excellence established by TED Fund in the last 5 years across our tertiary institutions addressing various thematic areas. And this is dealing with issues around migration and the benefits that we can derive from it. The research we intend that this to happen here is exactly being displayed here today, that migration is not only the negative consequences or the gory pictures we see of people moving across the Sahara or across the Mediterranean, shanty trains, but the fact that Nigeria can harness its intellectual assets. Many countries across the globe today are benefiting, China, India, so many of them, from their diaspora community, because these people leave their countries, go to foreign countries, learn, contribute, acquire knowledge, acquire wealth, and they give back to their home communities. They return with their international intellectual talents, not just the financial disbursements or remittances that they send home. And that way, they are able to translate the things they saw, the developments they witnessed or experienced, and to translate them to their countries. We hope this conference will focus more sharply on these positive aspects of migration, and I look forward to a very fruitful experience here today. Thank you very much. I deliberately didn't talk about the request from my brother, but I want to give you the assurances that TED Fund will continue to sustain funding for all our centers of excellence, including this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Secretary TED Fund. Still in the spirit of goodwill messages, I would like to invite the Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees and Internally Displaced Persons, Honorable Aliu Tijani Ahmed.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Honorable Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sunun, the Executive Secretary, Health Area Education Trust Fund, Architect Sonu St. Chono, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian and Diaspora Commission, Honorable Abike Dabri Erewa, the Director General, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Abubakar O. Suleiman, former Executive Secretary, TEDFON, Professor Bogoro, Chief of Mission in Nigeria, IOM, and the keynote speaker, Dr. Chris. Mr. Chairman, permit me to stand on the already established protocol. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure to stand before you today at this esteemed gathering 2025 conference of the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies, hosted by the National Commission and National Open University of Nigeria. The conference theme, Migration and Sustainable Development, Problem and Prospect, is very crucial when migration dynamics continue to shape the global and national development trajectories. Migration has long been a significant driver of economic growth and cultural exchange and social development. It facilitates the transfer of knowledge, skills, and remittances, contributing to poverty reduction and economic empowerment. The 2030 Agenda of Sustainable Development recognizes the importance of migrations as a driver for sustainable development. The central reference to migration in the 2030 Agenda is Target 10.7, which calls on states to facilitate orderly, safe, regular, and responsible migration and mobility of people, including through the implementation of planned and well-managed migration policies. However, migrants' diverse contributions are directly or indirectly linked to all sustainable development goals and numerous related targets. Migration plays a vital role in sustainable development, with migrants contributing significantly to both their countries of origin and destination. Developed economies such as the United Kingdom and the United States, Nigerian migrants have made remarkable contributions, particularly in the healthcare and technology sectors. According to UK's National Health Services, Nigerians constitute a significant portion of the foreign trained medical workforce, with over 8,000 Nigerian trained medical professionals registered with the General Medical Council as of 2023. Similarly, in the United States, Nigerian professionals are excelling in STEM fields, with Nigerian Americans among the most educated immigrants group, according to data from the Migration Policy Institute. Many have played leading roles in technology, with Nigerian-born professionals working at top firms such as Microsoft and Google, where they contribute to advancement in artificial intelligence and software development. Their expertise not only strengthens the economies of the host countries, but also fosters global innovations and cross-border collaborations. Beyond their impact abroad, Nigerian migrants have facilitated significant knowledge transfer upon their return, bringing back skills, expertise, and best practices that are shaping Nigerian socio-economic landscape. In the health sector, returning Nigerian doctors have introduced improved medical procedures and diagnostic techniques acquired overseas, contributing to advancements in patient care. For instance, institutions like the Lagos University Teaching Hospital have benefited from collaboration with diaspora-led initiatives focused on specialized medical training. You also recall that the former Nigerian Vice President paid homage and acknowledged the world-class medical care he received at the treatment facility run by a returnee in Lagos. Similarly, the rise of technology hubs in Nigeria, such as Lagos, Yabakon Valley, has been influenced by returning technological entrepreneurs who have leveraged global experience to drive innovations and startups. The influence of diaspora engagement is evident in sectors like digital finance, where 26 companies such as Flutterwave and Paystack, funded by returnee entrepreneurs, have transformed Nigerian financial ecosystem. Those developments underscore the critical role of migration in fostering economic growth, skills development, and sustainable progress in Nigeria and beyond. Conversely, migration presents challenges such as irregular migration, brain drain, human trafficking, displacements due to conflicts, and climate change and the exploitation of migrants workers. These issues cannot be ignored. Effectively addressing them while maximizing the benefits of migrations requires strategic, evidence-based, and multi-stakeholders approaches. Nigeria as a nation has the responsibility to ensure that migration policies are aligned with the sustainable development goals, particularly SDG 10, on reducing inequalities, SDG 8 on decent work and economic growth, and SDG 16 on peace, justice, and strong institutions. Our commitment to the Global Compact for Migration further underscores the need to foster safe, orderly, and regular migration pathways. To this end, under our supervision of the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants, and Internally Displaced Persons, NCFRMI, has initiated the review of the National Migration Policy 2015. This process commenced with the convening of the Technical Working Group on Migration and Development, which in turn established a review committee on developed an action plan to guide the policy revision. Adopting a multi-stakeholders approach, the review process has engaged relevant stakeholders across Nigeria's 6 geopolitical zones, ensuring inclusivity at the state and local levels. These engagements have provided valuable input on key thematic areas, aligning Nigeria's migration governance framework with emerging global trends and best practices. Some of these thematic areas include that are not limited to: 1, strengthening return readmission and the integration process for Nigerian migrants, supporting displaced persons and ensuring their sustainable reintegration, and collaborating with regional and international partners to address migration-related challenges, including climate-induced displacement. We recognize that migration requires strong institutional coordination and policy coherence. Therefore, partnering with the academic institution such as this is critical in generating research-driven solutions that inform policies and interventions. This conference presents an opportunity for scholars, policymakers, and practitioners to deliberate on innovative strategies to enhance migration for sustainable development. I urge all participants to engage in meaningful discussions, share best practices, and contribute actionable recommendations that will shape Nigerian migration governance framework. On this note, I commend the leadership of the NOUN and Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies for their dedication in advancing migration studies and policy discourse in Nigeria. I assure you of the NCFRMI unwavering support in working collaboratively to address migration challenges while leveraging its eminent opportunities to nation development. I look forward to the outcomes of this conference, which I am confident will provide valuable insights into shaping Nigerian migration future. I thank you all. May God bless.
Thank you very much, Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees and Internally Displaced Persons, Honorable Aliu Tijani Ahmed. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, kindly permit me at this juncture to recognize the arrival of the Director General, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Abubakar Suleiman. Still, in the light of goodwill messages, I would like to invite the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria Diaspora Commission, Honorable Abidi Gadi.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister and Chairman of this occasion. Nice to always see you again. Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you for your kind words. Our Chief Host, Mr. Vice Chancellor, congratulations and wish you all the very best. This time next year, we'll be celebrating all your achievements as we move on. Congratulations. My brother, Ted Fund, you know, if I start now, I'll come with my own request. Thank you so much for what you've been doing. DG Refugee Commission, our partners working together. It's been such a great pleasure. Former DG, former Tech Fund ES, Professor Baguro, always nice to see you again. DG, you're most welcome. You missed a lot from that, but you're most welcome. My sister, IOM, Deputy Chief of Mission, it's been great conversing with you. Our guest speaker, keynote speaker, we're looking forward to your speech. And of course, Migration Center, thank you so much for all you've been doing. I pay my respect and compliments to everyone. Good afternoon. I'll not repeat everything I need to say has been said. Speakable Minister, VC, Refugee Commission, TED Fund. I'll just stress what we do at the Commission, which is what we call the diaspora engagement. JAGBA is not necessarily a bad thing, but how do we tap into positivity of migration? And ask ourselves as you go into this workshop, why would you get on a dangerously to go to another country? Because a lot of people keep a hope in hopelessness. You know, you want to run away. But at the end of the day, where you're running to, run away from. So as we go into this conversation, let's look at how together, as we all start sitting here, we can put a stop to irregular migration. And I think a lot of it has to do with awareness. Now, we spoke to Professor Jibuno, who has done a lot in terms of traveling through the desert, spoke to 100 people. They were on the boat. And he said, do you know that maybe only one of you can survive or two? And each person said that one person will be me. You know, I mean, terrible, the bad side of migration. We have been inside Libya detention centers where we saw firsthand, you know, horrible sights. The most horrible thing I've seen in my life. Human beings packed together, Nigerians, but we brought them back, over 10,000. Yeah, but the sad thing is they're back. So I still get distress call. My sister just went, she's in Libya, and I said, why? Why? I think it's ignorance. Poverty, yes, but ignorance, because they always say, and Refugee Commission, they will say, oh, we will. So how can we collectively ensure that we don't that danger and irregular migrants and getting safe and regular pathways to migration? I believe that if 40 people they're going and they get information that don't go, as an irregular migrant. What you survived 10 years ago to this world. And honestly, the Nigeria you're running with, you're running to. So I think first thing is awareness, sensitization, and then all of us working together as stakeholders, the University Commission, Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, and all that, your center here. So I think that is very important. And then the positive side of migration, which is what we deal with at the Diaspora Commission, the best of ourselves. The soup that the whole world wanted last at least 7 or 8 Nigerian Americans, and there are just two teams in America. 7 or 8 are Nigerians. One of them, I don't know whether you saw it, actually, after he won the Philadelphia team, he came from America. He's a Lagosian. So we try to celebrate the Nigerian diaspora. And in the last 5 years, every time we speak, we hear diaspora, diaspora, diaspora. What we have tried to do is to bring diaspora issues to the front burner. Today, we can't be talking about Dirty December if we haven't in the last 5 years not to engage with them. Come home, see what you can do. What can we do together? And we're having success stories. When the Minister of Health said people are coming to Nigeria for medical treatment, some people say, what is he talking about? I can testify. Nigerian doctors in the diaspora are building hospitals back home. I know about 10 in the last few years. And guess what? People indeed are. I saw a German go to a stroke hospital in Imo State. The best stroke hospital was set up by Nigerian diaspora in Imo State. Marcel Root Cancer Center is one of them. I saw somebody from South Africa coming to the hospital. So what we're saying is that what we need to do, and hopefully working with your institute, is let's put this information together. Nigerian diaspora investing in healthcare, agri, ICT, tech, and all that. But what we need to do is put it together, and we're doing that with the commission. I hope we can work with your center academics to put more of that together. And then we have a lot of programs, the Diaspora Day, where we come together and celebrate our diaspora investment summit, where we gather together and show them where they can invest in, and that is beginning to happen. The diaspora data mapping, because data is key. We're mapping our data of the diaspora. Diaspora mortgage scheme. They all want to come home and build houses. They give money to somebody, the money disappears. So how do we ensure they get their houses and all? So a lot of programs we are doing at the commission, and we can work with your center. And then Tech Fund, thanks to our 2 years here, started with you, Prof, building a diaspora center of excellence at the University of Ibadan, and then implemented under you. Can we clap for these 2 amazing gentlemen? So just like you, I'm going to ask that you please help us to ensure it becomes reality so that we can have a place like this. Who knows an annex here at the National Open University of Nigeria? Clap for that now, and then next. So really, this aligns with what we do at the commission. We look forward to the outcome of this summit, and we want to work with you further because there's a lot we need to do in terms of research, in terms of studies, in terms of really getting the diaspora to come back home and give back. You talked about it. India, China, Pakistan. They can't talk about their development without the diaspora. We want to do the same thing. We're beginning to get there, and we will get there. If you say Nigerians are the best all over the world, I tell them, it's not about being the best all over the world. Look back and be the best in your own country, Nigeria. There's no point, being the best doctors in America further, because there's a lot we need to do in terms of research. And that is what we try to, the message we pass to our diaspora. And we're saying we have about 17 million Nigerians in the diaspora. Who knows, maybe much more than that. When we look at those on the African continent. So, Mr. Vice Chancellor, we at the Diaspora Commission look forward to working a lot with you. We look forward to the outcome of these summits. And most importantly, we look forward to more stakeholder collaboration. All of us here, humanitarian, foreign affairs, Emeka, our keynote speaker, who we've done a lot of work with, all of us, private sector, public sector, we all need to work together and ensure that we tap into the enormous resources of our diasporas. And most importantly, how do we ensure safe pathway to migration? We don't have to die in search of employment. You don't have to. Make it legal. You're looking for the jobs. We can provide them. And hopefully we all can achieve that. So Refugee Commission, we look forward to working more with you. Thank you very much for inviting us. I will look forward to a great, great, great event. And finally, Honorable Minister, we also hope that the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs will do much more with us in terms of, what we do with the diaspora and for the diaspora. I know that refugees, are different from but there's a lot of sympathy. And being a former member of parliament, I said, you are on sabbatical. We look forward to working more with the ministry. Thank you very much and I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Chairman and CEO, Nigerian Diaspora Commission, Honorable Abike Dabri Elewa. I want to thank you kindly for opening that window for us to have a look into what your commission is doing. Still in the spirit of goodwill messages, I would like to invite the Chief of Mission to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, International Organization for Migration, Paula Hayes.
Thank you, sir. Mike. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Vice Chair, Director General, Commissioner, Chairperson, professors, migrants, and diaspora among us. As Nigeria continues its work as a champion country for the implementation of the Global Compact for Migration, International Organization for Migration and not of Migration, I represent today, is committed to continue collaboration with the government and other stakeholders, migrants themselves, diaspora members, in supporting Nigeria's position as a global leader on migration. I think Nigeria has a huge opportunity in the African Union, in the Rabat process, Khartoum process, many different fora to really help us going forward. I work on migration for 20 years. I've seen 3 steps back, forward, 20 back. There's a lot more we can do together, as our sister told us just a minute ago. From the successes of immigrant and diaspora members in Africa, mostly coming from Nigeria, going to the world, and overseas, to the entrepreneurial effort of the returnees in Edo State, who have created jobs, to the contribution of Filipino migrant workers in Abuja, Italian migrant workers in Lagos, and so on and so forth. From the contribution of the refugees from Cameroon in Benue State, migrants to and from Nigeria are change makers. They carry with them the drive to elevate Nigeria as they elevate their own circumstances in pursuing their goals and dreams. They do this on an individual scale, but also on a communal scale, capitalizing on the aid and support they garner from family members and from laws, policy, and practice that uphold their rights. We cannot not have a human rights-based approach to migration. We need to have the rights of migrants at the center and the migrants at the center of what we do. As we consider development in light of migrants' my full contribution to the society they live in, IOM reiterates its commitment to engage with the Nigerian government in a whole of society approach to migration government that privilege the role of migrants. Let us be clear. Migrants are human beings first. They are not just abstract agents of development. Yet their humanity and their goal benefit the development of countries. But these are not exclusive concepts. On the contrary, the more we ensure that the civic, political, economic, and social and cultural rights of migrants, the greater the capacity we have to maximize their contribution. When migrants have opportunities to learn new skills or expand existing ones, and are given meaningful opportunities to get jobs, using those skills, they take them, they transform societies. This conference boosts an array of participants, brings them together, participants with formidable expertise, including the highest level of governments. We are all well placed in the coming days to use this collective knowledge to consider how best to build on migration momentum, to go forwards, not backwards. IOM reiterates its long-standing commitment to work with the government in the many ways it has, from providing data to inform, for example, the flood response, to natural disaster, to finding durable solutions for individual migrants, including refugees, to partnership with states to create and harness existing regular pathways. We are also engaged recently in the revision of the migration policy. It stands ready to update in the migration policy. It stands ready to new ways of cooperation to further the shared goal of saving lives and making migration a choice rather than a necessity. As we pull beyond it, we should not be afraid to look at migration and development from new angles, be innovative, be bold. We should be willing to step outside our comfort zone, reframing questions about migration, shaping migration expertise during this conference and beyond it. We should not be afraid to look at migration and is the problematic integration model of assimilation expected of migrants from the global south to the north, but not necessarily the other way around. What roles does power play in the dialogue about migration and bilateral migration negotiations? Why does a false binary opposition between the good, the refugees, and the bad, the migrant workers, continue to proliferate? What initiatives would move the needle on the persistent problem of racism and xenophobia, also in migration policies and action? These are developmental questions. Let's answer together this question during these days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for kind words. Chief of Mission to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, International Organization for Migration. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, still within the realms of goodwill messages, we would like to invite the Foundation ES TED Fund Executive Secretary, who give birth and life to the Center of Excellence on Migration and Global Studies. In that light, I'd like to invite Professor Suleiman Elias Bogo for a goodwill message.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister, Humanitarian Affairs, and Chairman of the occasion that has graciously declared open this wonderful international conference. Thank you very much, sir. The host, the Vice Chancellor of a university we're all proud of. NOUN was a concept. Today is a reality. And we're proud of the infrastructure and the scholarship emerging from this great university. Professor Olufemi Peters, you're doing a great job consolidating on what my two brothers, former vice chancellors, my friend Professor Tenebe did. That's the man that built physically this university, way back. And the wonderful vice chancellor that took over from him, my brother, Professor Abdallah. Great job, one after the other. And they have never contradicted themselves, just as the current ES of TED Fund showed respect and gave credit to whatever I did before he came in. Thank you, Architect Echeno, for acknowledging the fact that TED Fund decided to evolve the concept of centers of excellence in all areas of relevance for our nation. And we all know them. Like he said, I think 27 now. I had the latest figure from him today. I wasn't sure number. Thank you for consolidating on them. And with this platform, we have had a lot of great things emerging in terms of what have been sadly negativities about our country. Migration, Japa, well, they talk about Jalo, which is all very negative. We just, am I right? Is it Lapo Jalo? No, Japa, besides Japa. Thank you very much. Yeah, and all those negative tendencies. Ordinarily, since the years of Tatpan, the current has spoken, I'm not supposed to speak. I must show respect. But I want to thank the organizers that invited me as a special guest. I want to thank you very much for the great opportunity. What are ideas that we start from our narrowest of confines? Today, they have become great things. If I reflect over the Refugee Commission, the great job they have been doing out there with some of the challenges of IDPs and refugees in our country, we appreciate the establishment of that organization. Let me very specially talk about, I simply call her my sister, the chairman, chief executive of Nigerian Commission, Diaspora Commission, the wonderful, honorable Abike Dabri Erewa. I say wonderful because, to be honest, for somebody who had no idea about what that commission could do, he would have been a complete failure at takeoff. But she's given inspiration about the purpose of that place, and she's going places. The other day, I listened to her when she spoke about the very sad initiative she made in respect of, is it Badinok? Yes, I know, she knows. I watched that program, and I thought, for all of us Nigerians, we should be proud of what we represent. Just like she talked about the Super Bowl, those Nigerians, even though they were playing in the United States, they carried the Nigerian flag. That is how it should be. I would not like to relate with any Nigerian that because you've gone to what you consider a better environment, that all back at home is rubbish. God forbid. We must reject that and portray Nigeria in the best of image. I just said, let me make this remark if I'm saying nothing else. I thank you for the honor, Vice Chancellor, and all of you seated here. There are great prospects for this country. We all have responsibility to make it greater. God bless.
Thank you very much, Professor Elias Bogoro. Beyond that brief goodwill remark, you will get to appreciate Professor Suleiman Elias Bogoro better when you take a trip around this campus. He made sure under 6 months, this campus you are seeing was built when he was an ES TED Fund. So we're most grateful. He was the supervising officer that provided the funds. The vice chancellor then was Professor Vincent Ado Tenebe. I want to invite him for a goodwill message. Professor Vincent Ado Tenebe, please.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, Vice Chancellor, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me to rush this goodwill message because I don't know why the MC had to call me here now. But it's not coincidental that Professor Bogoro has just spoken and he called me. I want to thank you for this very important occasion. But what I will do now is that I don't envy the keynote addresser of this occasion because everything you are going to say have been said. And I think you're only coming to make a summary. How I wish you would have allowed him to speak before we bring all the goodwill messages. If I were the keynote addresser, you would have destabilized me. But then I want to quickly thank Professor Bogoro and use this opportunity to tell you people that Professor Bogoro, even though his name is big, his achievements are big, and you think that he's a big man, he's not a big man. Professor Bogoro and I were born the same year, 1958. He was born in June, I was born in August. We went to primary school the same year, finished the same year. We went to secondary school the same year, finished the same year. We went to university we graduated the same time. We joined the same university, Abu Katafa Balewa University, then Federal University of Technology, Bauchi, the same day. We got promoted from graduate assistant to professor the same time. He studied animal science and I studied crop science. And we got employed into the same faculty. And surprisingly, the very year I missed promotion, he missed promotion. And we were blaming each other. It is because of you that I missed the promotion. Not only that, we did masters in the same university in ABU Zaria. We came back to the same university. They gave us the same house. We were sharing the same flat. We were living in that flat when we got married. His wife and my wife were born the same year. Yes. My wife was born in January 1966. His wife was born July 1966. And when eventually the university decided to give us houses, he was giving house number 1 and I was giving house number 2. And we lived like that for 18 years in the same university. So Professor Bogoro is closer to me than any of my biological siblings. So it is God that made it that when he was in TEFON, I went to him and said, you cannot escape unless you build Open University. And I can push his head and he can push my head. And that is it. So I'm happy that this has come up. I'm so happy that the Vice Chancellor is doing very well. I'm so happy that Architect Echenu, my PANSEC, at the Ministry of Education then, I could walk into his office anytime, any day, and he has always supported us. I'm happy that Open University is making it. In fact, I'm so excited that we have this Center of Excellence and Migration. Talking about migration, if you don't migrate, you are not living. All human beings we are migrants. You migrated here and you are going to migrate out. I tell you, when I did my first degree in ABU and second degree in ABU, and then I was registered PhD in ABU, then I was withdrawn from the PhD voluntarily because I thought that that was inbuilding. Because BSc, MSc in the same school, I said no. Then I was registered for PhD in ATBU and all these degrees within Nigeria. If you don't know, and you don't know, you are in trouble. I had 2 of my colleagues, one Professor A.Q. Ibrahim and one Professor Mike Ago. One went to UK for his studies and the other to US. So there came a time when there was facility for World Bank for PhD students to go abroad to finish their PhDs. Bogoro and I were part of that. Both of us went to UK. He went to Cambridge, but I went to a lesser university in Coventry, in Warwick. But before then, why am I telling you this story? I met Professor A.Q. Ibrahim and Professor Mike. They were doctors then. I told them that I'm not going to go to this program, that what am I going to do is PhD. PhD in Nigeria is PhD in UK or America. I was just bragging out of ignorance. But they were looking at me and smiling. And then they said, wait, why don't you just give it a chance? Go, and you will see the difference. So I took the program and I went. Ever since then, I realized that if I had not gone, I wouldn't have known anything. So migration is very good. If you don't migrate, if you don't go anywhere, you don't know anything. It is through migration that you can get exchange of knowledge, culture, religion, beliefs, exchange of food, fashion, housing, and even exchange of wives. If you marry from another country, you will know what I'm talking about. If you don't believe me, ask Professor Sogolo. He went to PhD maybe in Britain and got a British lady. And you can see that even though he's looking like 60 or 50 years old, he told me secretly that he will be 80 officially. Officially. By January. Do you know why he said officially? Because he doesn't actually know when he was born. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you very much, Professor Tenebe. Sometimes I don't know where rightly to place him, whether as an academic or as a comedian. Saving the best for the last, I want to invite the immediate past Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, who in his era worked tirelessly in bringing this university up to speed, including the Center for Migration and Global Studies. Let me invite Professor Abdallah Uba Adamu.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to, as they say, stand on existing protocols. That way I don't have to go through listing everybody. If you miss somebody, they get annoyed that they have not been recognized. Ambrose, Professor Tenebe is not a great comedian. You and I are media scholars. Professor Tenebe is an excellent showman. I've been asked to give a goodwill message, and there is no better place to give it than here. This university, all of it, was single-handedly created by these two people, Suleiman Ogoro and Vincent Adotenege, the two of them. Whatever you say about the university, they created it. They created the soul of the university. They made it what it is. When I was appointed the Vice Chancellor, the university was still located in Lagos. And to be frank with you, I didn't even know that there was a campus of the university in Abuja. But all I know is that we were in Lagos. And the former ES of NUC said, Kai, Abdallah, I'm sorry for you. I said, why? He said, because getting those people to move out of Lagos would be impossible. So when I got to Lagos, I knew that there would be this task of getting people to come to Abuja. They are so entrenched in Lagos. So I just simply decided to adopt a simple tactic. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving to Lagos on the 28th of March, 2016. That's it. We are migrating. If you don't want to come to Abuja, no problem. You can stay. Continue staying here. But if you want me to sign any approval, you either fly or you drive to Lagos at your own cost. I will sign it and you go back. So the choice is yours. So I didn't force anybody to come to Abuja. They decided to come on their own, voluntarily. So Professor Bogoro, we would like to appreciate you. Thank you so much. Vincent Adamu. People don't know that he's actually Adamu. I am Adamu. So I and Vincent are brothers. The only difference between us is that he is slightly taller than me. It is easy to start something, very easy. But maintaining it and sustaining it, that is where the task is. We started Open University. Professor Olupemi Peters sustained it. He could have killed it, but he didn't. He performed better than we did. Professor Mungode, Oshe. And the university will run on a simple principle of Kosi Owu, Ego Adege, Wala Shede, Bakudi, in order to encourage probity and accountability. And we did that. Current years, Dr. Achun Nabatama, he supported us strongly. On a personal level, I don't have to tell them how it happened. On a personal level, when he was PS, he supported me, Abdallah, personally. But then he also supported the university when we were having problems in Kaduna with the Al-Majiri Commission or Nomadic Commission or whatever it is. So I would like to thank you very much. Now, I will briefly explain how this center came to me. I was in my office one day when I was given a letter informing me that we have been selected as one of the centers of excellence. So I asked, Center of Excellence in what? And the one said, I don't know, and I don't care. Just Center of Excellence. Just sign this and give me my paper so that I can go back and start processing. I said, no. You have to tell me. Center of Excellence in what? They said, look, come up with whatever you like. And I said, this is fantastic. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. I am a product of migration. I'm a Fulani. My father was Fulani. My grandfather was Tuareg from Agadez in Niger. And my father was an expert on migration. He has written a lot of books, papers on migration, particularly Arab migration into northern Nigeria. And one of the things that has bothered me is that whenever we talk about migration, we're talking about outward bound migration, about how Nigerians get out. But we're not talking about inward migration, the inflow of migration. And Kano, where I come from, is a migrant city. The founders of Kano were migrants. The name K-A-N-O, Kano, was not a Hausa name from Kano, but a Hausa name from Gaya outside of Kano. It was established by migrants. The power structure in Kano, the emirs and all the others that we have, were from Daura. The first king of Kano was from Daura, Bagauda, Dauda Bagauda. He was a migrant. And in about 1463, the Fulani migrants came in to Kano. And they spread all over northern Nigeria. And by 1804, they felt that there had to be a revolution, and there was a revolution. They had their own jihad. So the entire Kano history is about migration, about the power of migration. But the Fulani conquered Kano. They took over everything. They took over the leadership. But then the Kano people conquered the Fulani in the most significant way you can conquer somebody. They had guns, if you like. They had arms. They had takobi, that is swords. They had knives. And they had the religious zeal that they are doing a jihad, and that when they die, they are going to heaven. No problem. And they did. They took over the control of northern states. But they lost their language. No Fulani now speaks much Hausa language, Fulfulde language. Or all speak Hausa language. Go to the Emir of Kano's palace, which I have a linkage. And everybody will tell you that we are Fulani. And yet, nobody could even say, jump Mama, jump on me. The moment you start talking about Fulani, they'll say, Nekake Chewani. Yeah, but you're supposed to be a Fulani. You're supposed to be a Fulani. So the migrants conquered, stayed, integrated, but the locals also conquered them by absorbing them, and the migrants lost their language. These are some of the dynamics that were going through my mind when we got this letter from Tetvan saying we have been allocated a center of excellence. So I said, center of excellence in migration. And that was how the idea came up. As a migrant, let me see how we can now look at the power dynamics of migration, the integration. But we want to look at inward flow rather than outward flow. So we established it. Now we have to look for somebody who was a first-class scholar, who is a historian, a political scientist, and who talks a lot. We have to get somebody like that. And we looked through the university, and the only person we could find, he's also a migrant to the university. He was not part of the founding staff. He ran away from another university, Adeleke or something like that university. And that was Ibekunle Tijan. Stand up, sir, so that people can see. He is what I call a reversible migrant. He is a Nigerian, he is an American. But so while he was in the American sector of his life, the Nigerian sector of his life, we gave him this. So as a migrant himself to the United States, he knows what it is. He knows the nitty-gritty of migration. And he set it up brilliantly, excellently. So he made it. I created the idea, but he actualized it. Oga Pemi continued to sustain it. Another visual said, look, what is this migration people doing? That talk. But he sustained it. He believed in it. We'd like to thank you very much, sir, for this sustainability of the academic programs of this place. So then we combine National Open University of Nigeria. It's a combined migration with its mandate of providing free, accessible education. And the story was that in an IDP camp where we have refugees and migrants, one of the ladies who saw her family butchered right in front of her eyes ran away to an IDP camp in Yola. And she was in the camp doing nothing. But she had a primary school, secondary school, and some of the qualifications. And she decided to enroll in our program, National Open University program. This woman, under those conditions, with a trauma in her head, finished and got first class. Zenith Bank said they will sponsor more IDP camps, and up to now, we are still waiting for them. So the Center for Migration is a center that looks at inward and outward migration. And for the first 3-4 years, it has been outward. And we will now start focusing on inward, because I'm part of the editorial board, and we are very vibrant, because the center keeps doing its seminars, weekly or monthly seminars online. And we all participate together with an allegedly 80-year-old man who glorifies dead white philosophers, together with his boy over there, Professor Uduma. They glorify dead white philosophers. They're talking about philosophy, it's all about Plato, Aristotle, all those dead guys. They're not talking about living African philosophers. So they are always glorifying and bringing up all these things. So Center for Migration and Excellence is an excellent initiative, conceived by Professor Suleiman Okoro, drawn up by Abdullah, and built by Tijani, and sustained by Peters. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Abdullah Uba Adamu, bringing us to the end of Goodwill Messages here at the 2025 Annual International Conference, organized by the Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies of the National Open University of Nigeria. Before we proceed, let me very expressly recognize in our midst the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Abuja, now Yakubu Gowon University, Professor Abdurrashid Na'Allah, who is joining us now. Thank you for your presence, sir. The Chairman and CEO of Nigerian in Diaspora specifically requested that I recognize her former boss at the NTA, a retired director and former DG National Lottery, Olurogun Dr. Peter Ego. Sir, you're most welcome. You're welcome, sir. And it is not lost in us, your presence, Professor Emeritus Godwin Sokolo. Thank you for joining us today. Let me at this moment invite my colleague, Miss Mary Osato, for the continuation of the programs here.
Thank you very much. The goodwill messages is more than enough proof to show that it takes a whole community, it takes a whole of government and whole of society approach to achieve this migration governance that we seek in Nigeria and the world at large. This brings to mind the words of Martin Luther King Jr. when he said, "We have all come on different ships, but we are now in the same boat." What boat, if you ask me, is the boat that encourages us to bring our theoretical ideas, our perspectives, to ensure that we achieve migration that is beneficial for all. Ladies and gentlemen, as we ponder on these words, it is now time to invite Afri Inze and his team to entertain us for a brief interlude. Are they ready? Thank you very much.
I say nobody should sleep until the identities of these people are revealed.
Nessun dorma, nessun dorma. Tu pure, o principessa, nella tua fredda stanza, guardi le stelle che tremano d'amore e di speranza.
Who are these people and what are they doing in our country?
Many of them are migrants.
My name is Joseph, and I am a Nigerian and Congolese clothes maker. Without me, the world would go naked.
I am Anima. And I am Zita. We are professors of letters. Without us, the world will be soulless.
I am Ahmed.
And I am Anthony.
We are traders and we travel east, west, north, and south.
And we sell to all as they come.
I am Zainab.
And I am Fatima. We are international relations students from Ghana.
We started the present so that our relations will be founded on trust.
I am Jide, and I am a physician. And even though I heal others, my own health is in the hand of my neighbors. You see, we come, all of us, from students to engineers, from doctors, traders to writers, all from different African countries. You see, we follow the good name of your nation. All over the world, we ask that the value of migration be recognized globally. You see, that way we can all thrive, enriching lives and lands with our life experiences. We are you, and you are us.
Ma il mio mistero è chiuso in me. Il nome mio nessun saprà, no, no, su quando la luce splenda bacio scioglierai il silenzio e ti famiglia. All'alba vincerò in cielo.
That was a wonderful one. If you ask me, can we please join our hands together again for them? Thank you very much. Indeed, in the words of the former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, he said that migration is not a sign of failure, but a powerful expression of human resilience and the quest for a better life. He further went ahead to say that migration is a global phenomenon that has the power to either divide or unite us, depending on how we respond to it. How do we respond to migration, ladies and gentlemen? It is now time for us to invite someone. I kindly ask for your attention as we read his citation for a few minutes. It is a great honor that we welcome a distinguished scholar, advocate, and global expert in migration governance, intellectual development, and public policy. With an illustrious academic background, he holds multiple certifications in international migration law, peace studies, and conflict resolution. His wealth of experience spans academia. He is a highly esteemed, sought-after migration management expert in Nigeria. In fact, we refer to him as a migration encyclopedia in Nigeria because if you have any question on migration governance, he is the right person to ask. In addition to his extensive contributions, he currently coordinates over 300 CSOs in migration and development in Nigeria. He is a mentor to numerous youths. I'm proud to say that I am a product of his mentorship. He has paved the way for young people to actively participate in migration governance. Beyond policy and governance, he has made significant contributions to academia, serving as an adjunct lecturer and director of research and projects at the Center for Migration Studies, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka. Today, as we deliberate on migration and sustainable development, problems and prospects, it's a privilege to have him share his insight and expertise. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming our keynote speaker, an eminent scholar, advocate, and thought leader, Dr. Emeka Chris Obiezu. You're welcome, sir.
The chair of the conference, Honorable Minister of State, Federal Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, this may be following. Please, I beg your indulgence to stand on the existing protocol, not just because I forgot next, but because we know that the time is well spent. Today is very important day, to me in particular, not just because I have the privilege to give a keynote speech, but because I stand to give God thanks. We heard State Fund and Open University talk about sowing the seed and seeing that seed grow. I think my joy today reverberates that 2016, I returned to Nigeria as a migrant who has sojourned outside Nigeria for 16 years. And what pushed me to return is just something tells me it might be better at home to use what you have to help your people. I had a contact with Center for Migration Studies, New York, Center for Migration Studies, Bogota, Colombia, who asked my resources to be a professor in the center, doing research and others. I think I accepted the offer to be in New York, having worked in New York for 10 years around the UN. But on a second thought, one morning I woke up, I went to Kevin, the director of the center. I said, I have a change of mind. And the change of mind is that I decided to go back to Nigeria. I want to have a Center for Migration Studies in Nigeria instead. And he told me, you can't make it. It took us a long time to do that. And I came back to Nigeria. God designed it. I found my place in a space where I met the National Commission for Refugee Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons in an event. And we talked about it. I thought that I've worked in migration space a number of times. One of the things Nigerian migrants or migration experts have been accused of is that we don't have depth of knowledge because most of our references, they say, is populist. There's no depth of academic in it. And so that I was interested to work with any university who will be open to set up a Center for Migration Studies. And the then HFC, Sadia Umar Farouk, opened up her door and accepted that, and asked the director or the desk officer of migration to make it open to Nigerian universities through the center. And I dropped a concept note through the director of migration affairs, who invited people from this 6 geopolitical zones, as it said, and asked universities who is interested to start Center for Migration Studies. But the commission has no money. You have to do it yourself. A young man from Nnamdi Azikiwe University came up and said, let us try. And I worked with them day and night, of course, pro bono, to set up that. And in 2018, August 28 precisely, Haja Umar Farouk went down to Nnamdi Azikiwe University and established a Center for Migration Studies, the very first one we had. And then the center began to spread around, make noise, and tell all the universities, you can do it if you have done it. And I think the first group that came up was Open University in 2020. And they sought our experiences to do that. And so standing here today, I can also count number of universities in Nigeria that have also started opening, Center for Migration Studies. We have University of Abuja, we have Nasarawa State University, we have Diaspora Center in Ibadan. We have a number of it. So I may not as well give an open speech, but say thank God that the Center for Migration Studies, which I dreamt of returning back to Nigeria as my own gift to Nigeria, is also blossoming. Thank you all. Of course, that is not my keynote speech. The last person before the presentation said he pitied me on what I'm going to do, and that is the fact. Everything I was about to say has been said, but unfortunately, he said the last one because I was banking on that particular one since they have said every other thing, but he said that last one. So I don't really know how to go about it, whether to read what I have or whether to give an abridged version of it to just make sure that you have something to go back home with. I want to say in the midst of all this, that I reverence the doggedness of the director of this center, Professor Gloria Aneto. Anytime I see her call, I know I cannot avoid it because she will call you until you pick the call. And when she told me, I am giving you this space, make sure you come, I said I would come. And then she kept asking me, give us the theme of your speech, give us the theme of your speech. And I didn't want to give her, but she then made me do that. On this morning, I woke up with a thought. How would I start up a conference that would go in for 2 days on migration studies? It is not a conference of practitioners or professionals in the field. This is an academic space where I know your colleagues are already checking whether you are plagiarizing, whether you are saying the right thing, whether you have the right data, and all the rest of them. And again, I said, let me tinker on this. Knowing that today we are talking about migration and sustainable development problems and prospects, I thought that what could help me to set the stage for these 2 days robust conversation is to tweak what I will call the landscape upon which every other conversation paper will be presented for these 2 days. And that is to revisit or unlock the migration and development nexus discourse, seeking a coherent and comprehensive approach to the conceptualization, policy, and projects of practice of migration. Why do I say this? I say this because in the course of doing migration activities, I found out that when it comes to development, one of the cheap mantras we say that we have said here many times is that migration is a driver of development and development also enhances migration. And many times we say also that when we migrate well, we can build our place. And with migration, we can develop individuals and nations. But I've tried also to assess the level of development that migration has drawn in such a way that it can be quantified in tangible national development. Sometimes it's still not connected. And this is why I thought the reason why it is not happening yet is because the direction or the trajectory that the discourse on migration and development is taking somehow veered off the track. And when you build something on a wrong foundation, you are actually bound to fail. And one of the key areas where that issue is in the conceptualization. What do we understand or what do we define the migration nexus with development? And how does that impact the policies we codify? Or how does it also propel the projects we ourselves put forward? And I believe with a school of thought who thinks that the problem we have in migration and development discourse is a question of lack of coherence and also incomprehensiveness. And that's incomprehension because the issue here is that this person thinks this is what it is, and the other person thinks this is what it is. And everybody pulls and pushes their own agenda from the same different points of view. We have more divergence than we have more convergence. And so this school of thought puts it forward that if we actually try to understand or sketch for us an approach that is coherent, in other words, when I hear it here, it is the same out there. And when you also say it, I will also know that it aligns with mine. And so we came up with the fact that this migration and development discourse, which has already been articulated, we heard Paula and others mention it, that in this SDGs, we have at least 7 targets that are speaking directly to migration. We have 10 indicators that also measure migration directly. And we have 24 others that we say that are related to migration indirectly by disaggregation. These are the things we say very well, standing the fight that migration is a vehicle, is a catalyst, is a means of development by which we can as well ensure sustainable development as it were. But again, what development and whose development? we look at how this conversation is made. Today, I've been listening to us, and that somehow it justifies the claim of my school of thought, who thinks that something needs to be done differently. Many a times, what we have heard in terms of development is how much the diaspora investment or engagement is helping to develop countries. I was so happy when my sister, Honorable Abike, said, extolling the value of our brothers, 7 of them who participated in the Super Bowl. But it is all who celebrate them. In the United States, they are just one of those players who are out there, because the narrative of migration governance or migration and development propelled by the United States does not see them, as it were, as migrants contributing to the entire development of the United States. So it is us who see the diaspora that see them, as the case may be. Many a times, but I'm so happy that I also had people here today who talk about development, recalling that migrants' contribution to development is not just that one of outward. And that is when I said, he said, and I thought he would not have said it, but he just did. But I said that because in the previous policies we have done and the previous programs we have set up, they have always looked outwards. Outward in the sense of how to protect Nigerians outside, how to set up mechanisms to attract their investment, and how to ensure that those who travel irregularly are returned safely and reintegrated sustainably. But we failed to forget that a huge number of migrants are also in Nigeria, making meaningful contribution to our development. But there is another side of it that is never mentioned at all, especially in the what we call prevalent conversation on migration and development. That is those who are internal migrants. Nigeria stands out as an example of beneficiary of internal migration. The latest study done by UNESCO and IOM in 2022 tells us that the integral development of Nigeria derives more from internal migration, how these migrants, not just of their entrepreneurship, but from the culture and value they bring to cities, build our cities to mega cities and raise the GDP of those countries. And by that effect, they are also propelling our own development. And then when we look at conversation, we always talk about migration to the outside, how those people from outside do it. And our diasporas are looked at as those who have left their countries because there was nothing for them here. And so migration for development is predicated on the fact of migration being a panacea for poverty. And so those who go out go out because first and foremost, they don't have anything. But we also know from studies that migration level rises in the countries or continents where there are very high development in economy. And if you look at the chart of the first 20 countries most migrating, you'll be very surprised to say that apart from the Libya crisis that just hit recently, there was no African country in that first list, who tells us that, again, it does not necessarily mean that poverty is a driver of migration. But we also know that even when the migrants from poor countries migrate to outside, it is not always the case because they are in poverty, but because they have also identified a gap in the destination countries that they have a gift to fill in. And that is why they go and they produce. And we have a testimony of many of those places. Look at the innovations we have seen in the world today. How many of them are built on the strength and innovation of migrants? So in order to do my work, which I'm not going to present here today, I tried to do a study of how this conception was done. And I looked at, first, what theoretical frameworks drive migration, the philosophical background that gives migration definition in terms of migration and development. And a school of thought strongly believes that only migration and development we can talk about is migration that helps people to come out of poverty. Or we can also look at that from the dependency theory, who tells us that because that's, which is also linked to colonialism, that just like the first era of shipping people out to provide resources, also migrants are still sought today from poor income countries to large destination countries on the account of lack of means. And so they create poverty here and then create need for you to get somewhere else to get a job. These are school of thoughts that are giving definition to migration. Another angle we looked at to be able to say that migration policies have migration and development nexus discourse have a skewed understanding is one that look at policies, how countries make their policies. And I took a study of 6 countries divided into developing and developed countries. And I tried to pick from different continents. We have Nigeria/Ghana for West Africa, of Africa. We did Sri Lanka, and then we also did Mexico. In all these 3, what came out strongly for us is that in the policies they make, they are 80% concentration on the migration hinge on diaspora engagement, on return and integration, what happens when the people return. And then none of them are in such a way, but I have to crave the indulgence to also credit the Nigerian process of governance in the recent time, also intentionally conscious of making our migration holistic. And I think the commissioner referred to that in the next policy, or in the policy we are reviewing. We are having a holistic approach that does not look at one dimension. But generally, all African migration, all developing countries migration help to justify the fact that migration is only seen from the point of view of diaspora engagement. And so diasporas are made to be that, what they call the cash cow, that will always provide the fund to help people. And we see it in the case of diaspora who live outside. Our sister will tell us how much, if you engage with the diaspora, how much they tell you they labor to bring us relieve the pains of their plates. Then the 3 other sets of countries we studied were the countries from the developed world, so to say. And we looked at Germany, we looked at Canada, and we looked at Australia. Again, taking different geopolitical zones. And again, something stood out clearly, that in each of these 3, their concentration, when they talk of migrants in their country, they are only looking at specific skill. In other words, you are valuable when your skill is sought after. And that is why they have point-based selection to be able to make you qualify to come. And the other thing they do in terms of migration development is to facilitate development of migration in the origin country. And we see this in various projects and programs they do. But in the real sense of it, the sole aim is to stop migration into their country in terms of irregular migration. That is what we've seen that cut across. Another area we looked at is the area of programs. And we looked at international arrangements like Rabat Process, EU African Trust Fund, Pebula for North Central America, and the Asian Group. And what we find again there is the context of migration and development is always put forward, but put forward in the sense that it attracts the attention of the other partner into the conversation. But underlining it is, again, a move to ensure that migration tide, especially those considered irregular, are stopped and live at the examples to such effect. Why European Union and African Union in 2015 set up in Valletta Summit to manage migration for the benefit of the 2 continents and came up with the European Trust Fund for Africa. One of the key elements of that is to make migration for development a project. But we found out that the emphasis from various studies, those convened by Europe themselves and then convened by independent scholars, that at the height of that arrangement is stopping irregular migration. And so countries that are engaged in this partnership for programs are countries that are tagged the high points of irregular migration. And the idea is, if you key into it, then you'll be helped with development assistance. But unfortunately for countries, some pacts of extolling only one segment of migration as part of development catalysts. And what is that? Diaspora again. In Africa, one of the contending definitions of diaspora, which we borrow from the African Union definition, is the definition that you contribute to the development of your country or your continent. And for that reason, AU defined African diaspora as the 6th region of AU. Again, it is predicated on the account that diaspora is a cash cow that provides money for their own engagements. And we see it on the other hand side of what benefits the diaspora themselves. At least I know in this country, we are still fighting and still struggling. The diaspora of Nigeria could also have the same participatory role in our democracy and our governance, which is exactly part of development. And one other aspect we found out is that, again, that development is always defined in terms of economic contribution. Things that come from value, culture, and any other thing are not always talked about when they talk about development. And what this does is that it makes migrants who cannot raise a substantive amount of remittances to be counted as diaspora, migrants who are contributing to development, as it were. So having seen all this, as it were, what do we now propose as the best way to study migration and development nexus so that we can achieve a comprehensive and a coherent approach? It's not just about resources that help somebody to get somewhere, but also includes the social well-being of that individual. In that case, if a person is not integrated into his society, either where he is as a migrant or where he has returned as his host country, such a person is also deficient in development, as the case may be, just as we are talking about political and governance electoral rights. And so, having said that, we also said in terms of conceptualization, our understanding migration and development should also look at all this holistic approach of internal migration, knowing that in the statistics of over 1 billion people who are on the move, about 760 million of these people are moving internally. And these internal movements are contributing substantially to development in those areas. So you cannot do a migration and development discourse hinging on international migration alone, which is just about 281 million of people who are moving. So we think that holistic approach should be taken into consideration. And that being the case, it should not only be focused on the origin country. The emphasis is always on helping the origin country. And the reason why it is so is because we are already seen as an impoverished people, and then you have to be made to rise well. But since we have shown that migration does not simply depend on what you have in terms of ability, in terms of cash, but also it is a national thing that human beings live in. We should also do migration discourse that focuses on destination country, especially on the fact that migrants are key presenters of opportunities. They have set up entrepreneurs in those countries. They are employers of labor, not of migrants, but of nationals of countries. We just heard our people here who presented Oprah say that to us. Now, living conceptions, the conceptualization, we also talked about policy. We must again revisit how we make our policy. And this is where I extol the Nigerian approach we are doing. And the GCM has given us another opportunity to do that. Why the GCM looks at the external migration or the international migration, a migration policy that governs development must be integral. In other words, it must be holistic, carrying both internal and international migration for its sake. And this has been proven in the study done by ICMPD and the European Studies on European Center for Development Study in 2023, put up that particular notion that internal migration is a key catalyst to migration development and cannot be forgotten in that discourse. And finally, on the terms of practice, we ask that it is essential that those who do migration for development policy, especially on the context of bilateral relationship, build on projects like EU-African Trust Funds and programs like a Better Process, Canton Process, and all those. We should take aside a time to ask how many of these projects have tangibly included or achieved a development in a particular country which is targeted. Then if we do not get a corresponding answer, there is a need then to expand our understanding of development in such a way that it does not only look at returning migrants, but it also look at creating opportunity for development. And one of the reasons we put out there is because sometimes the reason why those countries are poor in their GDP or less in the economic opportunities is because forces from external bodies are also keeping them in that way. Either their multinational corporations are doing businesses that are stifling the progress of these people, and therefore, when they are stifled, you will not be able to get a corresponding development. And so we are saying such projects for development should be looking at things like creating a balanced trade agreements. Currently, in the World Trade Organization's arrangement for trade, the African countries still enjoy only 1% of contribution in the pool of international trade. If entire Africa enjoys only 1%, and 75 of that 1% is natural resources, then how can we contribute or compete with the same people on the ground of development, whether internal migration or external migration? Being an academic activity, which we are doing today, a task is given to us that we must, as academics, take a critical look at research that provides evidence-based policies, their aim and things to use and data to be able to make policies that we can track, we can measure, we can monitor, and we can assess. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Emeka Krisobiezu. I really wish you had more time. It's always a pleasure to listen to you, sir. Thank you very much. At this point, we'll now invite Professor Chiedu Mafiana, the DVC academic, and Professor Gloria Aneto to please come forward for the next item on the agenda, which is the presentation of awards. You're welcome, Prof.
You want to be now we're going to. Yes, we want to apologize for the time that we spent, especially on our chairman and also on our distinguished guests that have come. And we want to thank the guest speaker for speaking truth to this topic within a very short time. We want to have commenced the award of recognition as a show of support that we've received from our various distinguished invited guests. Therefore, please permit me to invite a friend to the university. I usually say that, taking things for granted if I say that, but I know he will always allow me to do that. The chairman of today, Honorable Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sununu, our Minister of State for Material Affairs and Poverty Reduction, who also had a relationship, like I said earlier, of being the Honorable Minister of State for Education, upon which NOUN was really based. And someone also who has conscientiously extended education to his constituency. We are currently developing a study center in the home state of the Honorable Minister. So it's my pleasure, therefore, to invite the Honorable Minister, Sir, Dr. Yusuf Tanko Sununu, for this award in recognition of all what you've done to emancipate and provide overall leadership role in global migration, and especially as your current role for the Honorable Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs. Thank you very much, sir. You want to snap it too?
Next on the list is the Honorable Aliyu Tijani Akpinat, Honorable Federal Commissioner and the CEO and CF MRI. So this award is presented in appreciation of your interest in and support of migration in Nigeria. Congratulations. Thank you very much. The next is a word of honor to the Honorable Abike Dabri-Erewa, the Chairman, CEO, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. Wait a second. And the award, this award of honor is in recognition of your tireless fight for the life of migrants beyond the shores of Nigeria. Congratulations. The staff who are here, oh, they are here. All right. You. Congratulations. Where is it? Congratulations. The next is a word of recognition. This is presented to, okay. To Architect Sonny S.T. Echona, who has been called to the State House. May I call on Professor Duma to come forward and receive on his behalf. This is in recognition of his wealth of experience in the management and funding of diverse fields of study. Okay. Next is a word of recognition presented to Professor Abubakar Suleiman, the DG, National Institute for of Legislative and Democratic Studies. In recognition of your inestimable contributions and your wealth of experience in national development, we congratulate you and we look forward to the speech you are going to make later today. Thank you. Congratulations. An award of appreciation presented to Paula Pace, the Chief of Mission, IOM. Yeah, the VC is commending the entire appreciation of your interest in and support of migration in Nigeria. Congratulations. A word of appreciation to our keynote speaker, yes. Keynote speaker, you are invited. Yes, may I also invite the Honorable Minister to make this presentation. Congratulations. Thank you. So Professor Elias Bogoro, who again is out there, but we will invite his brother, Professor Ado Tenebe. No, Professor Adamu Tenebe. Yes. So this is one of the occasions we need to note so that when you are putting together the comic speech you made. Congratulations, sir. Okay, Professor Emeritus Professor Lubemiru Jagede, Mr. Registrar, you would keep this for your staff. Is that the last? No, it's not. Professor Vincent Adamu Tenebe, former Vice Chancellor, NOUN. We recognize your inestimable contribution to the development of NOUN. Congratulations. And of course, the chief migrant, Professor Abdallah Ubadamu. There's something. We recognize your support for this center. Migration from Lagos to Abuja and Abuja to Kano and Kano back to Abuja. Okay. Emeritus Professor Godwin Sogolo. We can't estimate the ages of these people coming. Well, a different type of migration. Thank you. The philosophers who recognize the dead and the living. Thank you very much. Professor Hakim Ibekunle Tijani, the first director of the center. Prof, there you go. All right, Professor Tijani, the first director of the center, will recognize the excellent work you did as a foundation director. Congratulations. May I invite the Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa to make the next presentation. to Professor Olufemi Ayinde Peters. Yes. Thank you very much, Mark. Finally, Professor Gloria Annette. Do you have staff? You can borrow staff, no problem. After the photograph, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Professor Mafiana, for this service. Thank you. So,
Thank you very much, Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of academics, Professor Chedu Mafiana, for anchoring that award presentation. This brings us almost to the end of the opening ceremony for this 2025 annual international conference. But before we get to the end, I'd like to invite for a vote of thanks, Professor Akim Ayofe Akinwale from the Center of Excellence on Migration and Global Studies.
Thank you very much. The chairman of this occasion, the chief host, the vice chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, all the guests of honors, all the special guests, all the dignitaries, the director, Center of Excellence in Migration and Global Studies, former vice chancellors in attendance. We thank you for many things, most especially the display of your expertise and sharing of your ideas and experiences in the area of migration and global studies, especially at today's event, the opening ceremony of the 2025 International Conference on Migration and Sustainable Development, Problems and Prospects. We thank you very much. My deep appreciation goes to the keynote speaker, the encyclopedia of migration in sub-Saharan Africa. We thank you most especially. We thank all the dignitaries for their goodwill messages. I strongly believe there is an emerging revolution. Currently in Nigeria, we do not have association of migration professionals. And I think this conference is opening a platform for that possibility. And I can see here migration cartel in Nigeria. And this can be a driving force for the emergence of a very vibrant association of migration in Nigeria. I think director can take this up because it is necessary for sustainability of this particular noble agenda. I thank the rapporteur teams. I thank the control room for live streaming, no power outage. I thank the managers of this venue, Mr. Nati, Mr. Kunle, and I thank the principal officers of the National Open University of Nigeria for working behind the scene to power this conference, because without them, we cannot be enjoying the air conditioner in this room. So ladies and gentlemen, before I stop the vote of thanks, I also thank all the people that accompany our dignitaries to this event. We wish you safe journey back to your destination. And I thank our researchers who are going to make presentations during the conference. Please bear with us. We are already running by hand schedule, but we have the capacity to make necessary adjustment. Members of the press, I thank you. The camera crew, thank you very much for your selfless service. Audience, without you, we couldn't have done anything. Thank you very much for gracing this occasion. Please continue to stay with us. This is just the beginning. We have 2 days conference and we have a determination to address migration-related challenges by facilitating exchange of ideas, and we have ambition to generate sustainable solutions to some of the pressing issues. Please, you'll be glad you did. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, and I wish you fruitful deliberations at this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think before we depart from this auditorium to give way for the plenary, I will want to request from our technical team to please put our online participants on display for us to have a slide of what they are like. Can we have our online participants on display very briefly, please? Yes. We have Inenia Itefe, Aminu Bello Du, Sabako Fumen, Aminu Bello, a lot of them. Okay, so we want to thank you for participating and being with us. Before we depart, Professor Abdullah Ubadamu was raising his hand. I don't know.
I'm very sorry for breaking protocol because we're about to close. But the last speaker talked about an association of migration professionals. And I and Professor Tenebe thought it might be a very good idea to have an migration and diaspora studies, an association of migration and diaspora studies. And our kind request to the Vice Chancellor is to submit, a program to NUC for a study, an academic program, either to be housed somewhere on migration and diaspora studies. Because now with all this reverse migration of people from the US coming back to Africa and so on, the issue of identity and my own place, people asking themselves, who are they really? Who are you? Where do you come from? I think it's very critical. It requires a sustainable academic focus. When he says professionals, we're talking about people who are trained to do something. Everybody can be a professional in migration. But when we talk about migration and diaspora studies, we are now bringing the community together. People are coming together, no longer based on our ethnicities or our nations, but on our humanity. That's the only addition we wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. So before the group photograph, may we rise for the closing anthem.